I want to get back to Canberra now. It is officially the last sitting day of Parliament for the year, and the government is rushing through environmental laws. These have been on the books for quite some time. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has done a deal with the Greens. Joining me live now is Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg. Andrew, why didn't they do a deal with the coalition?
Well, good morning, Laura. It would have been our intention to do a deal with the government if there could be a reasonable accommodation of the issues we wanted to see addressed, particularly around the approvals in the housing space and more infrastructure and energy infrastructure and the like. But obviously the government have done a deal with the Greens. We have no idea what the deal entails because we haven't seen any of the amendments, so who knows what they've agreed to.
Okay, but you haven't been part of the process. We've just had a media conference there from Anthony Albanese telling us the broad details of it. Given those broad details, and I take that you haven't actually seen the amendments and the devil can be in the detail. So with all those caveats, what's wrong with the deal that they've struck?
Well, we haven't seen the amendments, which was the issue that we had earlier in the week where Angie Bell, the Shadow Minister, had been engaging with the government and she hadn't been given the amendments that we had asked for. So it's very hard to negotiate with a party if they are not prepared to provide you with the details, because the detail really matters here. It matters to the stakeholders who are involved in the field. And so we weren't able to get that level of information which was necessary to make a judgment. So regrettably, the government have decided to do a deal with the Greens, and I have to say that I'm sceptical about this because the government have been a champion of red and green tape over these last 3.5 years. And so it will be akin to turning around the Titanic if this is really going to be a removal of red and green tape.
Yeah, well, look, I haven't heard from business groups yet. Obviously, the BCA, for example, wanted the coalition to be dealt into this because that would give it certainty over a longer term and several election cycles. That has not happened. But on the face of it, if this does make approvals faster, which many of the state premiers, including Malinowskis in South Australia, have been calling for, is that a good thing?
Well, the Shadow Minister has been trying to get to the bottom of what the amendments are actually going to look like, and we haven't been given them. So it's very hard for me to give an answer on that question. What I will say is that we tried to get, on a best endeavours basis, an agreement with the government to fast-track these approvals, noting that there are long-standing issues with these laws, and unfortunately we weren't able to do that. So they're going to guillotine the bill through this afternoon. They'll guillotine it with nine other different bills. That's democracy in Australia today. Okay,
I quickly want to ask you about inflation figures as well. Obviously this was a shock yesterday, and that's why we saw the Treasurer out before these figures yesterday. It's the first full set of monthly inflation numbers. You know, do we have to kind of keep that in mind there? Given energy is such a big part of this, should these subsidies stay beyond the end of the year?
Well, no, they shouldn't, because the government should be trying to get more energy supply into the system, which will drive down prices. And what we need to see is more of everything. More gas. There should be effectively a lengthening of the use of coal. There should be nuclear. There should be more renewables. There should be more of everything. That should be the focus on the energy side.
Sure.
And I make the point that the government is spending too much, which is why there is pressure on the Reserve Bank. And now, after 12 interest rate rises, we've seen a paltry 2 or 3, and Australians are paying the price now of the government's inability to rein in spending.
Right, so just to be clear, you personally don't want to see an extension to these subsidies?
Well, it's just a band-aid. I mean, the point of governing is to try and make long-term judgments in the interest of the nation, and they should be trying to get more energy supply. I mean, this is just a short-term fix, and it is very expensive and distortionary. And I mean, they're pulling the wool over people's eyes, frankly. The idea that Canberra is going to subsidise these things is not actually fixing the root problem.
Well, sure, but people are going to suffer in the meantime, so you don't want to see those subsidies extended.
Well, I think the government need to focus on getting more supply. That should be their focus. I mean, the budget is hemorrhaging, and that is putting pressure on families because The budget having its backside out of its pants means that the Reserve Bank is keeping interest rates high. So people are paying more on their mortgages, inflation's high, people are paying more for everything. So this government is hopeless on economic management.
Mm-hmm. Just quickly, I want to ask you on energy because I know you've got to go. I spoke to Susan Lee about this yesterday. Of course, you know, it's all about supply, getting prices down, when that and how that might happen in the two alternative plans. Is it clear or can you make it clear? If you've dropped net zero, I mean, that's the easy bit. How you get prices down is the next hard bit. But as you've just said, Andrew, we need as much energy in the system as possible. The data centres alone are going to require, for this AI revolution, are going to require so much more power than we actually have right now. So is part of the plan, would it slow down the renewable rollout? Because if it does, or if it, more accurately, if it doesn't, you're going to still need all those transmission lines that all the Nationals hate.
No, I mean, we should definitely not be slowing down any new energy, and the renewable energy is a great feature of the modern economy. But we've got to be clear-eyed about the fact that we need more of everything. We need more of all energy sources. And the problem that Australia has had is they've had too many politicians trying to play games with the energy system, and now all Australians are paying the price. So we should definitely be pushing hard on all forms of energy because we need it to fund and supply the industries of today and the future.
Andrew, good to talk to you. We'll let you go. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Laura.